Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tip Tuesday. Geoffrey Nance here with you. We have been in a series talking about running your race. Today's topic is about pacing yourself and really focused on how to not get hurt. Not getting hurt's a pretty big deal. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. What does that look like? What are some very practical steps that we can take from a trading perspective to not get hurt in and through our trading? So, keeping our narrative going here about running the race, I would say the biggest and the main thing that's likely to get you hurt is trying to do too much too fast. I think we have to recognize our limitations. We have to run within our limits. So in other words, for me, the most I ever really want to run is about 3 miles, but I only run 3 miles like once a year, maybe twice, but that's kind of it. So I don't need to go run a bunch of other miles just so that I can work up to 3 miles. I'm not out there, planning on, being some professional runner or anything like that. I recognize my limitations. I'm starting where I am, but at some point I also need to push myself. But I need to push myself in an appropriate manner, at a reasonable manner. So one of the things I would say to you guys is when it comes to pacing yourself is realize you're pacing yourself. See, I'm not running somebody else's race. And this is biblical too, right? It talks about how we're supposed to run our race to glorify God. I'm not running somebody else's race. You think about even the parables of the talents, and we mess that up nowadays and think it's about actual like talents and abilities. It's not. It's about money. It was back then. It should be now. But each person is responsible for what they were given. So the one was given 5. He came back and he doubled that, and they said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." The one that was given 2 was not held to the same standard to say, "Well, why didn't you bring me back 10?" He said, that person got his 2 and he doubled that, and he heard the same thing from his master. "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of more." It was the one that was given 1 that did nothing with it that was the one that was kind of blasted by the manager there because he did nothing with his talent that he had been given. And for us, we need to realize we're not running against other people. We're not running the race for other people. We are running our race, which means we need to know our limitations and our abilities and to recognize that we can't just go out and say, "You know what, I've been sitting on my couch for the past 15 years. I think I'm going to go try to run a marathon here in a couple of weeks." Like, is it possible? Maybe. Is it a good idea? No. Okay. But what we can do is say, "You know what, I've been sitting on my couch for 15 years. How about I get up and just go see how far I can walk? How far can I walk without getting tired or without being like, I'm absolutely going to fall over if I don't take a break right now?" And then we can say, "All right, well, how far can I jog?" And maybe we just say, "I'm going to jog for 5 minutes." And then we try to raise that up to 6, 7, 8, 10, maybe 15. And we look up and we go, "Wow, I can run a mile." All right. So we pace ourselves. We don't compare ourselves to other people. We don't try to do what other people can do. All right. So my son is a cross country runner, and they'll go and they'll run, 4 or 5 miles, 6 miles, whatever. And then they'll come back the next day and they do what they call a recovery run. And they'll go out and run like a couple of miles. I'm like, "What are you recovering from? This is what got you into this spot." Like, I don't get it at all. Like, that's not recovering to me. That's like, what are we doing? We're out here running again. All right. Now we'll talk about that a little bit more next week, but apparently, if you can run enough, you can actually get to a place where you actually enjoy it. We're going to save that for next week because that's going to be our conclusion of this series. But for me, I'm like, why would I ever? I mean, like running a mile, 2 miles, like that's a big deal for me. So I have to know where I am. I have to know my limitations, and I have to make sure that I'm not trying to compare myself to other people. Because if I try to push myself too far too fast, I could actually hurt myself. So now I'm actually doing the opposite of what I wanted. See, I'm not achieving my goals. I'm actually hurting myself because I'm trying to do something I'm not physically ready to do, guys. And listen, we can do the same thing in our trading. We can have these really high, goals that we want to achieve. But if we're not really ready to go at that pace and to run that race, then we're not actually doing ourselves any favor by setting our goals that high. We need to set more realistic goals. Let's go run a mile. Let's go see if we can run a mile and a half in a month or two or whatever. Set these realistic goals and work towards achieving those. And what you'll find is you're going to be running at a reasonable pace, but it's also going to be something that's going to be building you up over time. And that's actually going to be a healthier approach to it. So run your race, not somebody else's race. Run at your pace. Okay. I am not a fast runner. I recognize that. I get out there and I run with my wife and she's running ahead of me. And part of me is like, I don't really like that. And another part of me is like, well, I'm also not going to run any faster. So it's just recognizing our limitations, guys. Sometimes we think of that and we go, oh, that's a negative thing. But there's a real benefit in recognizing it's my limitations. Now, let me add a three-letter word to that. It's my limitations now. N-O-W. N-O-W. So it doesn't have to be my limitations forever, but these are my limitations now. Number two, the next thing I would say is this. Look out ahead of you. Okay? Watch out for obstacles. If I'm out there running and some obstacles that could get in my way, step off a curb, sprain my ankle. That would be really bad. I'd hurt myself by not paying attention to what's right in front of me. Number two, like moving objects. I need to watch out for cars. I could be out there trying to do something healthy, but if I'm not paying attention to what's around me, I can get hit by a car, and that's going to be bad. That's going to hurt me. Not being aware of my surroundings. Okay. And then I would say this too, is not being aware of the conditions I'm trying to run in. So when it comes to our trading, we need to be aware of what's out there, right? We need to be aware of the conditions. We need to be aware of moving objects that could hit us and hinder us in our trading. So what does that look like for us as traders? So how do we make that transition? Well, some very obvious things, as we've talked about this often, that the market has various weather conditions. Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's snowy, windy, rainy, etc. And we either need to be prepared for different trading conditions, meaning we need to be dressed accordingly, meaning we need to have the right strategies in place at that time. So we got to have the knowledge of how to apply different strategies and also to use them at the right time, or the knowledge to say, you know what? It's lightning out there. I don't have to go running right now. It's actually not good for me to go running right now. I could actually do more harm than good by running right now. I'm going to stay inside. The other thing I would say is we have to watch out for other people. We have to watch out for other people. Guys, I really hope that all of you guys have somebody in your life that is encouraging to you in your trading journey. If not, this is going to be much more difficult. Okay. And I will say this, guys, sometimes other people are going to be one of the biggest hindrances and deterrents to us in our trading journey. Okay. So be aware of other people that are out there trying to drag you down, to keep you off of this journey, or to hurt you in the process. Trading, especially when we're starting out, and maybe even to some extent when we've been doing it for a while, can be a very frustrating, very hard, very challenging journey. You need somebody to come alongside of you and encourage you. And if you don't have that, and if you have the opposite, man, please go find somebody that is going to encourage you, that's going to be there for you, that's going to provide the support that you need. The Bible says that we should encourage one another and lift one another up. And I know some of you guys have spouses or somebody close to you that's just constantly out there asking you, well, what are you doing? What are your results? Well, that's not going very well. When are you going to quit? Are you just wasting money? How much money are you going to lose? You're hearing all this negativity from them. You need to recognize that as an obstacle to your trading, and that's something that's going to hurt you. In fact, what that's going to do is it's going to lead you just to hate trading, right? And I'll tell you this, guys, I don't like running, but I can at least still recognize the benefits of it. And then every now and then I do feel good after I've done it. And so at least I can kind of come back to those things. But if all you've got is just like constant pressure, just constant beat down, at some point you're going to be like, you know what, forget it. I'm not doing it anymore. And I don't want you to quit your trading journey. I don't want you to quit running this race. So I want you to be aware of negative influences in your life and how you're going to deal with those. And the last thing I want to talk about is, how do we recognize pain? How do we recognize pain? And then how do we recognize whether or not we're going in the right direction? And I think we can link these two things. As a runner, right, and I barely classify myself as that. Let me classify and say, as a jogger. Now, as a jogger, I don't run enough to really get hurt, or at least I thought I didn't. Normally I don't. But last year, I ran more than I've ever run in a year. And what I started to realize is my knees started hurting. I had like a little, like an IT band issue, and my ankles hurt a little bit. So I needed to realize a couple of things. One is I need to recognize when pain is present, and then how I'm going to deal with that. Ross talks about, pain always wins. Well, at some point, pain causes us to act in a certain way. And what I would say to you guys is, recognize pain and then deal with it sooner rather than later. Don't be on your trading journey. I talk a lot about this. Like if we're trying to go north, right? Let's just say we're starting out in like Kansas and we're trying to go to Canada. And then instead of getting to Canada, we hit a border and they greet us with "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" One of the things I always ask people is, at what point were you going the wrong direction? Okay. Well, it's not when you hit the border. That's not when you were going the wrong direction. You were in fact going the wrong direction the whole time you were headed south. Okay. But because you didn't choose to ask for directions, because you didn't recognize, hey, I'm really going the wrong way, you didn't get the help that you needed. Okay. You didn't get the rest that you needed. You didn't pull over. You didn't stretch. Okay. You didn't take time to stretch because you're like, I don't need to stretch. Macho. I can do it on my own. I don't need any help. Guys, that attitude and that approach gets you into trouble. You can go faster, but if you're going the wrong direction, you're still going the wrong direction faster. So the last thing I want to say to you guys is, we need to recognize in our trading and be real honest, am I going the right direction or not? And if our trading results are not what we want, then we need to recognize it's not going to get better on its own. It's not going to get better on its own. I need to go and ask for help. Okay, guys? That's my final tip to you guys. Recognize when you need help. There are some times when you just need rest. That's the best thing you can do. Just take a little bit of a break, kind of get away from it for a season or whatever, but get some rest, right? Do some stretches. Go back in, maybe learn some stuff again, maybe do some reviews, or maybe listen to certain, things that we have available, right? Just to kind of help you out with your trading. Maybe review some of our previous courses or whatever. Maybe learn a new strategy even. Okay. But maybe just take a break from actual trading. Maybe go back paper trade a little bit. And then sometimes, guys, we need to realize that even just taking a break doesn't mean that we get better. We need actual help. We need to actually go to somebody and say, look, I need help, right? And that's very hard for some of us to do because we're independent. We want to do this on our own. Now, God didn't make us to travel alone, but some of us feel like that's a badge of courage, right? I did it on my own. No. We're meant to do this together, okay? So recognize when you need help and then go and get the appropriate help, guys. And let me just close with this. There are different layers, right? And there are different opportunities for help that have better results than others. Okay. So you need to recognize, I can go to this person for help, but if they're not really able to fix what's wrong with me, then that may not really help me the way that I needed help. So you need to go to the right people to help you with the right problem. So in other words, you need to be able to go to somebody that can diagnose what your issue is with your trading. Why is there pain here? Why are you not getting the results that you want? To actually go to somebody that can actually help you with it. There's a saying that birds of a feather flock together. Don't go find somebody else that's struggling with their trading and be like, hey, do you want to trade with me? Okay. Now you're just running with somebody else who's hurt. That's not going to help you get better. You need to go to somebody who's healthy, who knows how to fix you, and then be open and honest enough. Guys, if you've ever been through physical therapy, it's hard. It is hard to change behaviors. It's hard to recognize that we need help. It's hard to recognize that we let ourselves get into that position. But we're still there. That's the reality, is we are still there. We are still in a place where we are hurting and we need help, but we need the appropriate help. So find someone who can do that for you. They can actually help you say, here's where you're getting off. Here's where we can get better. Recognize, is it just a matter of taking a break, or is it something that really needs to be drastically changed, but we can take some steps to do that? These are some very practical things, guys. We don't want you to get hurt in your trading. We realize that it can happen. We don't want you to quit your journey. We don't want you to quit running this race. So these are some things that should help you with that. So recognize where you are. Don't try to be somebody else. Recognize when you are in a painful situation, when you're not going the right direction, and get the appropriate help sooner rather than later. Guys, this is Tip Tuesday. Thanks for being with us, and we will see you next time.